Hi everyone, how are you doing? I hope as always that you're doing fantastic. My name's Afton and thank you for joining me today. So today we are doing a completely new kind of video than what I have ever posted before. And this is an effort to show you guys a little bit more about how I practice, but also how I'm actually trying to connect with my decks. Because I always say, like, when I post the VRs and whatnot, that I try to vary my decks in an effort to actually remember what decks I have and to get them to know them a little bit better. And I'll be honest, I haven't really been feeling like I've been connecting with my decks lately, that I haven't been putting in the effort to get to know them and to use them very often. I mentioned this before, the last maybe like at least 6 months, if not longer than that. I really haven't been using tarot at all. Like the occasional card pull here and there, but I really have not been using it as much as I would like to, I guess. But also, I just really haven't been feeling that call to use it. I haven't felt the need to use it as much. But about a week or so ago, a couple YouTubers, so Erin and Jay from Iridescent Tarot, started a hashtag called the Tarot Connectors Club, in which they actually give kind of a guided outline as to how to connect with your decks. And I thought this was really an excellent idea because for me, I don't really have like a set way of using my decks. It's really just if I feel called in the moment to grab a deck off the shelf. Most commonly, I will try to keep a deck by my bed. So in the evening, I will just ask a question, which usually all it amounts to is really like, what kind of energy or what do I need to know for the following day? And I think that's something that we need to talk about too, kind of as a community in terms of like, so for me, I haven't posted a lot of how I actually use my tarot decks because in comparison to what I feel like a lot of other people show, I don't really, like I said, I don't have a real structured way or like in a very imaginative way of using my decks, but I think that's probably a lot of people. So it always makes me feel kind of what's the word, like a poser, when I'm doing my decks and all I'm doing is VRs. But the reality of it is, number one, my tarot practice is just for me personally. I don't read for anybody else, and so it's a very personal thing. So it's how much do you want to actually show of that on YouTube to other people that you don't know. So but it's also, I feel like my practice is very simple. There's not a whole lot to show, right? So yeah, so I thought today I'm going to attempt to show you guys how I did this Tarot Connectors Club tag through the week with this particular deck. So the idea, before I start, the idea is that every week you work with a new deck for a total of 5 days. I mean, you could do 7 days out of the week, but the idea is to, give yourself a break. You don't have to use it every single day. But for every day, there's a specific prompt or a specific exercise that you do with the deck. So on the day one, the idea is to do a deck interview. And so that's what I've got laid out here for you guys. So the deck that I'm using for week one in September is the Lighted Window Tarot. So these are the backs here. I don't remember what the creator's name is off the top of my head. I will have to put it down in the description box below for you. So day one is a deck interview spread. So we've got our 5 positions. You can see I've got multiple cards for a couple of the positions. And it's really just to, first of all, get to know your decks. I typically do a deck interview. It's a little bit different than this specific one. Mostly the same. There's a couple extra questions in the deck interview that I normally do, but this one it's pretty much straight to the point. So the first position is up here, and I did try to zoom out as much as I can. I'll maybe pull the cards up higher so that you can actually see. So the first position is addressed to the deck. So what is your strength as a deck? So I, for this position, pulled the Fool. And what I wrote down kind of quickly, just a couple keywords here, is, curiosity, unafraid to wander, finding adventure, endurance I wrote down. So in terms of the deck's strengths, I think that it's a strong deck. It's not afraid to tell the truth. It's not afraid to jump in and answer questions. Yeah, so that was first position. Second position, down at the bottom here, what are your weaknesses as a deck? Or what do you view as your own weaknesses? So for this one, I pulled the Four of Cups as well as the Hermit. So for this one, I wrote down sometimes being too introspective. We know the Hermit is, going within ourselves. So I think the danger here with using this deck can be that it goes too far and into inner and forgetting to include our outside circumstances maybe sometimes when we're asking a question. And then I also had that with the Four of Cups, sometimes we can become too complacent. Some maybe, I love this deck so much. It's absolutely gorgeous. But maybe sometimes I will be too complacent and still want to use this deck when it's not actually the right deck for whatever situation I'm talking about. So that was what I got for weaknesses of the deck. Position 3, which is over here, how do you see yourself as talking to the deck? So we got Temperance for that. So for this, I immediately thought like balanced perspective when asking questions, but also the deck being able to like bring balance into my own mindset. Yeah, so that's what I wrote down. Those were just kind of quick keywords that I wrote. Position 4, how does the deck view me? And I got Three of Cups, which I thought was really sweet. So it immediately came to my mind as a good friend. So that was lovely to see. And then position 5, which is right in the middle, how will we work together? And there were two ways that I kind of interpreted this question, and that's how I kind of what came out. So the idea of how do we work together in terms of what do I need to do to prepare myself when working with this deck. So pulled out Four of Swords initially. So for me, that means like quieting my mind, being just in kind of a still state, not letting all of the craziness from outside affect what's going to happen when we're reading together. But can also be like, a potential outcome of how we're going to work together. And I got the Six of Cups. So that to me, I thought like we're going to be working very fondly together, creating memories. And yeah, just having like that specific association created with this deck, which of course, you get that with everything. Every deck usually, like you kind of develop that way of how you work with a deck. And then I just had a note at the bottom, so I'm just looking over at my journal here where I wrote everything down, that when I look at this, there's a lot of major arcana. Here we've got the Fool, we've got the Hermit, and we've got Temperance. There's a lot of cups. We've got swords, but what's missing is pentacles and fire, wands. So there's not a whole lot of, I guess that would like the fire energy, the passion, that kind of thing. And we're also missing earth. So being careful to not get too in my mind about things when I use this deck, I guess. Remember that I have to stay grounded. So that was the first day of working with this deck. And again, I just did it fairly quickly before I was going to bed, just jotted some quick notes down. I'm sure if I sat and reflected on this, I would get some different answers as well, but that's kind of where we started. So day 2, the idea is to use a spread from this book. So this is the Library of Questions by Lida Pavlova. And I did not have this deck on hand, or this book on hand. I did order it from Amazon. It was like maybe about $30, $32, I think maybe from Amazon, Canadian. And I really I think this is great. They're just very simple spreads. And the one that I chose to use with this deck was the Wanderer. So you can see it there. So question 1, what is it you need to explore? 2, what will show you the way? Why is this path calling to you? And what gift will you find there? So the cards that I ended up pulling for this, let's see. Now this is all like totally off the cuff. That I've got so much stuff here. We'll see if I actually record, you know, continuously as I move through different decks doing this challenge. I don't know. So just bear with me. What is it you need to explore was the Fool. So immediately I noted, hey, I had this card in my deck interview spread yesterday. So that's something to keep in mind. So for question 1, what is it you need to explore? The Fool. Just taking the leap, and don't be held back. It's okay to be afraid, but you still have to take the leap. So that's what I gained from that. What will show you the way? Let's see, this is all my stack of cards that I had pulled. 4 of Wands. So what will show you the way? For this guidebook, this card kind of threw me a little bit in this way, in this particular question. When I looked at the guidebook, it talked a lot about actually having like solid foundations and evaluating the structures in your life to make room for joy and creativity and that celebration that we usually associate with the 4 of Wands. To me, what will show you the way, looking at how I have structured my life so far, and maybe evaluating that and taking a gamble on changing some things to allow for more joy and creativity in my life. Position 3, why is this path calling to you? And for this one, I ended up with the Knight of Wands. So again, we have another fire element here. And why is this path calling to you? To bring in more spontaneity and adventure, to explore my own inner flame, and to let myself shine as brightly as I possibly can. That's what we got here. I hope this is all in, yeah, it should be in frame. It's kind of hard just with my setup here. So that was that. And then question 4, what gift will you find there, was the 10 of Pentacles. So idea of stability, growth, family, security, wealth beyond money, and, you know, the life you've always dreamed of having. So that was day 2, the Wanderer spread. Overall, I'm really enjoying how this deck is working. I think I already knew that it was one of my favorites just based on the aesthetics of it. And, you know, I've worked with a little bit in the past, so I knew kind of already going into this that this was going to be good, but this is just kind of expanding on everything, what I already knew, and just creating more of a bond. All right, day 3, do a reading with an oracle deck. So the first oracle deck that I used was the Seasons of the Witch Lammas oracle, because I realized in one of my deck collection videos that I hadn't even used this deck yet. So I was like, okay, we're going to use that one. And I just generally really like the Seasons of the Witch decks, and I do try to use them. I find they pair pretty well with pretty much anything. So I used the Lammas deck because that's where we are right now. And what did I have here? So when I pulled a card, I ended up with wheat and grains. So the question that I had in mind, and this was just, it wasn't anything really big. It was just very a simple question. I've been thinking about getting another tattoo. Would this be a good idea? Should I invest? Should I actually pull the trigger and actually get this new tattoo? Not right away, but sometime in the near future. That was as silly as what my question was. So there was nothing deep about it. So I drew from the Seasons of the Witch deck, the Wheat and Grains card, and it says, "Reap what you sow. Good fortune is on its way." And I was like, okay, well, so that, you know, to me would be like a pretty clear yes, like it's a good idea to get this. But then pulling from the deck, the Lighted Window Tarot, I got, what did I get? Where are my cards here? I pulled the Five of Cups, and then I pulled a clarifier on this because I was not quite sure how to interpret this initially. And then as a clarifier, guess what I pulled? The Fool. So I have a stalker card from this deck. It is the Fool. I will just say one of the reasons that I love this deck so much, I call it like rather than the Fool's Journey, this is like the Hermit's Journey, because if you look at this Fool card, doesn't that look like the Hermit's card? But anyway, side note. Okay, so looking at this, what I came up with the question of, should I get this tattoo? So this says yes when I just read it by itself. Pulling the Five of Cups with this made me think, okay, what am I trying to maybe fix in my life subconsciously by getting a tattoo rather than actually dealing with something? That's where it made me go. And I know I'm kind of being a little bit vague. The quote, I want to get a quote tattooed from a poem. And the line that I want to get is, "Let the more loving one be me." And the idea behind that, first of all, is like, I have so much love to give. If I never get that in return, that's okay. I want to live a life of always being loving and showing that love to everyone around me. But there's also that idea of, is that letting other people take advantage, right? So there's kind of a duality with that quote. And that's kind of where that questioning, like, is it actually a good idea? Like, as long as if I take the leap and actually get the tattoo, then I have to make sure that when I go in to get the tattoo, like, you're permanently etching these words into your skin, right? And everything has energy. That ink is going to be written on your skin. So going in with a very clear intention of, this is what this quote means, and this is not what it means. This is the energy that I'm taking on, this energy, not this. So that's kind of where I landed with that. So I went from a very, like, not a very deep question to then thinking, oh, why do I want to get this tattoo? What is the significance of the words that I want to get? Can it be construed in a different way? So that's where we've landed. It's yet to be seen whether or not I'm going to pull the trigger on this. But anyway, I hope my kind of ramblings are making sense. Of course, it makes a little bit more sense to me when I've got stuff written down. And of course, now I'm just trying to relay to the camera, to you guys, like, what my thought process was. And I don't know if I'm necessarily being super clear. But yeah. Anyway, so that was day 3, reading with an oracle. Day 4 is also to read with another oracle card, or an oracle deck. I initially wasn't sure if I was going to use oracle decks, or if I was going to pair like tarot and tarot, or what I wanted to do. But I thought, you know what? No, this is a good idea to actually use some of my oracle decks. That if you've watched my channel before, you'll know that I don't tend to use my oracle cards very often. I usually stick to tarot. So I was like, nope, okay, I'm going to actually use some oracle decks. So the oracle deck that I chose to use for the second day was the Crystal Forests deck. This is by, who is this by? Nope, not on there. Oh, Jess Purser. So this was a Kickstarter from several years ago. One of the very first Kickstarters that I ever actually backed. And I don't know that this version is, I don't think it's available anymore, but I think she has another slightly different version. So I pulled a card, and what was I? Oh, and so based on my choice of the deck, I was like, what crystal wants to work with me tonight? I didn't have anything, again, no like crazy question. I was just gonna see what came up. And the card that I ended up pulling was Blue Lace Agate. So I don't know if you can see some of the cards in this deck. We've got like a gold down at the bottom with the title. Some of them don't read very well. You really have to like get the light shining properly. So Blue Lace Agate, Forest, and then a keyword, so tenderness. Now, I am going to admit to you guys that when I started journaling, I definitely did not realize that the word was tenderness. I replaced it in my brain with the word forgiveness, which is a totally different card. This is a chrysoprase. So working with Blue Lace Agate, my keyword for it was actually forgiveness. But I think it kind of still works anyway, even if you use tenderness for what I ended up coming up with. So I pulled this card, and then for my cards from the tarot deck, I pulled, what did I pull? 10 of Swords and the 7 of Pentacles. Let's see here. So 10 of Swords and 7 of Pentacles. So with this, using that idea of forgiveness as the keyword that everything was centering around, pulling the 10 of Swords made me think, you know, there's a decision that I've been trying to make, and I've been feeling pressure to make it lately, but then pulling the 7 of Pentacles kind of as a clarifier was like, everything comes in its own time. So again, using forgiveness as my keyword, you need to forgive yourself for not making the decision, because everything arrives in its own divine timing. It's going to happen when it's meant to happen, and you need to forgive yourself, or using the actual keyword tenderness, be tender with yourself. Be okay with the fact that you're not ready to make that decision or pull the trigger yet. And so that was just a really soft, gentle reading that I don't think I realized I needed. So overall, at this point, really liking this deck, really liking this oracle, actually. It's beautiful. I think I had hesitated and not used it for so long, because I've had this for probably 2 or 3 years, like fairly early on in my tarot journey. But I forgot that it actually had keywords on it. So that, I think, was a big reason why I didn't use it. But here we are, and I'm really, really loving it. So that was day 4. And then day 5, which I only just completed, and was kind of the reason I was like, I'm in this energy. We're just going to record this video, and it's going to be what it's going to be. So day 5 is to do basically a meditation using some sort of like words. I think the ladies in the original video, the creators of the prompt, we're using, it's like 365 days Tao, maybe, which I don't have, and I didn't really feel drawn to purchase that book to do this. So what I decided to do was take one of the books that I already have, which has like some poems and stuff in it, and read through a poem, just open it up to whatever page, and then think about that, and then pull some cards. So the book that I ended up using, what I will probably use throughout this challenge, is Time Has Come by Wardle. If you're Canadian, you might know Wardle. He was on the TV show Heartland. He's no longer on the show, but the show is ongoing. And so he wrote a bunch of poems and put it together in this book. And it's really all about that. He had a big transition in his life, and he decided to write about it. So I ended up reading. So I just kind of closed my eyes, pulled open to a page, and I ended up with Kingdom of Beyond. So this poem is: afraid to lose control, but feeling the pull inside, louder and louder the longer you linger. A train whistle in the mind, one you can ignore but not avoid. God's plan is always one step at a time. You cannot fully know the outcome, and yet you must leap as if you do. So I've been feeling throughout all of these last few days of working with this deck, there's kind of been this theme, which is not surprising. It's been something that's been on my brain. This idea of, again, that same decision I alluded to earlier, having to make a decision. There's been something that I want to do, but I haven't pulled the trigger or made the leap. I've kind of been doing a little bit here and there to kind of look into it, but not actually fully committing to it. So with this book too, so we've got the poem, and then he has the next page actually talking a little bit more specifically about what he means, delving into it a little bit more. And he talks about, what does it feel like in your body when you don't actually follow the call that, whatever you're being called to do. So that was what I read. And I went back to the Crystal Forest Oracle just to kind of get a centering. And the card that I pulled, I guess I should say too. So based on reading that poem, I just kind of in my own brain was like, okay, so my question for the tarot then, or for this reading, is what am I being pulled or called to do or to recognize? And I pulled the blue goldstone card, and its keyword is authenticity. So from this, it's pretty self-explanatory, living my own authentic life, the way that I want to live it, and just being my true authentic self in everything, in every interaction with others that I have, with myself. And then the cards that I ended up pulling were the Six of Swords and the Tower. So the idea that then I should say too, the question that I asked then with the pulling the tarot cards was then, how can I achieve or work towards a more authentic life? And it's really that idea of it's scary to leave things behind, and there are going to be bumps along the way. You might feel that you've failed multiple times, but you need to keep your eye on the star that you're following and decide whether or not that's more worth it than staying wrapped up in what is familiar. And the idea that, as you're working towards this, yes, you've got your eyes set on one main star, one dream, but when you actually make that decision and you get there, there's going to be this whole other field of stars for you to look upon, more opportunities. So that's where I ended up. And I wasn't expecting in particular like this, the day 5, like the meditation on words, I don't know what I really expected. I think I was kind of like, whatever, like how is what I'm going to read in a book and then pull some cards? Like, it's not necessarily going to be applicable to my life. Well, I will tell you right now, this is super applicable. Even just if I had just left it at this card and not even worried about like the deck, like the whole point of this is to use this tarot deck, not this one. But there is definitely something in what Erin and Jay have pulled together in terms of, these different exercises that I was like, I don't even care about this deck at this point. This is like the message that I got is a big deal to me. This is something that I have been not struggling with, but aiming for and working towards for the past 4 or 5 years, ever since a big particular event happened in our world. If you know what I'm talking about. So yeah, I would just say, that's really all I came on here. I just wanted to document what my experience was for this first week. We'll see, if I continue, because like I said, it was kind of a mess having like all of these decks and these books and stuff here and my journal out to try and remember what I experienced. So we'll see if I continue to do it. But I just wanted to document it and to say that I think that this is a really excellent idea that Erin and Jay had to do. I really am appreciative that they put this out there and that they gave a sort of structure to work with, because I think that's mostly what I struggle with learning new decks. And also with, giving me more of a structure to use Oracle as well. Because I never know, like that's one of the things, I never really know if I, should I pull the Oracle card first? Should I pull the tarot card? Like, how is it going to all work out? If I pull the Oracle card, like what if it has nothing to do with, the reading, like that the tarot cards that I end up pulling to go with the Oracle card? Well, you know what? It worked. And you know what? If it doesn't work with one deck, then it doesn't work with the one deck. It's just the idea of pulling some decks, seeing how they work together. And if they don't work together, they don't work together. So yeah, after all of my rambling, I don't know if I'm even going to post this, but it just kind of helped to get some things straight in my brain. And also just to kind of lend some support to Erin and Jay with their tag, because I think it's a really excellent one, and hopefully it'll kind of pick up and lots of people will join, because I think it's going to be worth it. Yeah, so that's really all I had to say. I will post my decks that I used and the books that I used if you're at all interested. And yeah, that's it. I think I'm just going to leave it there. I feel like I could keep talking, but I would just keep talking in circles. So yeah, we'll leave it there. All right, guys, thank you for joining me today with my rambles, and we'll see you again very soon. Bye.